Let's look at Vulnerability Manager in action. Here we are in the dashboard and we see, security news, security advisories, very nice graphics that depict the important information that you want to be informed about. But let's go into the Vulnerability tab to go straight into the core. So we look here at the vulnerabilities, and we see that the instances of vulnerabilities we have 763. That means these are the different type of vulnerabilities that we have in the system based on our own scanner and other scanners that we feed information from. But we can pivot the information and look for network, asset, vulnerability, open service. Let's pivot instances. So how many instances of all those 763 vulnerabilities do we have in our system? Well, look at that number. 86,000 plus vulnerabilities. That's too much. Nobody can fix this vulnerability. In fact, by the time that you are, 5% on that list, you already have probably 100 more for every coming from every day. So let's see how the system can help us. Let's do a search. So let's create a new search and start looking at which vulnerabilities have actually activity, which have traffic. So days since the vulnerability has seen traffic, has put 60 days in there. So in other words, what we're doing is let me only focus on the one that have relevant traffic going to that specific vulnerability. Those that do not have, I'm not have to worry about. At least for now. I need to fix them, but let's worry about the most important thing. And here we have less than 2,000 vulnerabilities, more than 90% reduction. These are the ones that are pertinent because they are traffic of that nature going on. But we can refine this search further. Let's go and edit the search and add another criteria. Well, we have IPSs, right? IPSs are meant to stop vulnerabilities from happening. So let's actually look at the vulnerabilities that has a virtual patch from a vendor, and here we have the list of vendors that we have. We have Symantec, we have a very good one, the Proventia, IPS, but let's say that you have McAfee. So let's look at how many of these vulnerabilities could a McAfee IPS blocked. And we scroll down here and see it's 218. Well, that's good. I mean, that's 218. We don't have to worry. All we need to do is pass it on to the IPS Manager and ask him to actually fix those. How do we do that? Well, we can select them. Let's say that let's say that all of them are in this page. Let's click down here. I didn't mean to open that. Let me close that window. So let's say that we have all these and we want to actually assign those. So we go into Action, Assign, and if we will have a IPS Manager into the system with his role-based access, it will be showing down in that pull-down menu. We put whatever comments we want to put in there, and we actually send it, and he can get an email notification as well. So when he logs into the system, he's going to see them right here when it says My Assigned Vulnerabilities, and he knows he needs to deal with those. So now we need to modify the search, and we're going to assume that that IPS took care of those. So we remove that filter. Click on it and remove it, but we need to actually forget about the ones that is actually filtering. So we need to add this filter with the negated logic. So we say vulnerability has a virtual patch from McAfee that it is not equal to McAfee. So these are the ones that McAfee cannot fix, and those are the ones that we want to actually worry about. So that was the previous number, almost 20,000 minus 218. It's about right, 1,700 vulnerabilities that we still need to deal with. Well, that's still a very long number. How can we get the tool to help us some more? Well, let's go and edit that search and add additional criteria there. So we go edit search as we did before, and what criteria are we going to be adding right now? Well, there's one that is actually we can add, because we have an SIEM, we can detect if there has been an exploit for that particular vulnerability. Let's say that greater than 0 days. So if we have a SQL injection, have there been SQL injection type of traffic coming on, those type of things. Good thing is that there's no indication that any vulnerability is being exploited. That's a good sign. So we can remove that criteria, and now we are going to go into put a very smart search in here. So let's say that we want to get the low-hanging fruit. Access complexity equals low. That means I don't need a 0-day. Access vector equals network. So I don't have to click on anything and can be attacked from the network. And let's say authentication. And authentication equals no. I mean, I don't need any credentials to perpetuate an attack on this one. So let's put these three simple categories and see how many do we have, and see if this lowers our number somehow. Well, it did quite dramatically. Now, I have 167 vulnerabilities. These are, again, relevant to what I'm doing, cannot be stopped by an IPS, and are, low-hanging fruit for hackers to attack. So I need to fix these 167 of them. But still is a long number. It's all, imagine going on to all these boxes and fixing all that. Let's see if we can do better than that. Let's add another criteria for the search. We're going to add a very powerful one, and I will explain you how it works. Risk. When the risk equals high, tell me which those are. We click next, we click search, and we get these 13 only. Well, that's something I can deal in a day. I can deal with this. These are very serious vulnerabilities in here. But how do I know that these are risky? Well, we have Risk Manager also that plays along very well with QBM. Here we are in the Risk Manager tab. Here's a topology view that we can actually see the topology of the network. But let's go into the Policy Monitor, which is what I want to show you. Here in the Policy Monitor, we have a policy that is actually that reflect that risk criteria. This is high risk asset. And when we open it up, it's the same format as we have on the rules. We have plenty of things that we can add into the policy monitoring. So, but this one says you have communication from the internet. So you have a CVSS greater than 5. But the most important thing is this one. You have vulnerabilities which are exploitable, meaning there is a direct path to exploit that. And that's what we consider those high risk. Let's go back to the vulnerability tab. So this 13 I need to actually fix. But let's do another search and show you other capabilities that we have from searches. So we have all sort of criteria, confidentiality impact, availability impact, days since the vulnerability was found, all sort of criteria. We have this external reference of type, and then we have this has been notified by bug track ID, our X-Force, AppScan, whatever. Let's see the one for AppScan, for example. These are vulnerabilities that were found by AppScan, and let's click on those, and bang, we get 40 vulnerabilities that were actually discovered by AppScan. These are so you have all sort of mechanism to look for the vulnerabilities in the system. You can actually do quick searches. So if we scroll all the way down, we should have a quick search. Here it is. So quick search equals to, let's say that we're looking for buffer overflows. So we type here buffer overflow, add filter, click search, and bang, we get all these vulnerabilities, that are related to buffer overflows. And these are, not a coincidence. These are the ones that AppScan actually also detects. Let's do another quick search and search for, scroll the way down to quick search. We're going to search right now for Adobe. Let's search Adobe. And sure, it's got to be a couple of ones. Yep. Actually plenty of them. These are the Samba, these are the 445 attack on file sharing, and this one is all the metadata that we can see in every one of the vulnerabilities, and these are all the things that we can actually search the vulnerabilities from. So all that metadata is on the system for us to actually exploit. So let's do a new search. And now we are going to be actually looking for patch status equals, for example, which vulnerability is actually being fixed. And if we would have in here big fix, our IBM Endpoint Manager, it will show us which had been fixed, which are pending for download, pending for restart, etc. But we don't have IBM Endpoint Manager installed in this demo system. But it's just to show you the integration that the tool has with other components. So what else can we show here? Let's see. Look at all these different criteria that we have. So this is an important early warnings. That means I don't have to wait for the next time for a round of scanning, which can take easily more than a weekend, to find new vulnerabilities. So here I received communication from the IBM X-Force and other entities, and these are the brand new vulnerabilities that showed up after my previous scan. So this is new stuff. No need for you to wait until the next scan. You can actually be on top of the game and find the vulnerabilities and fix them as they begin to show up. And because we have an asset database, we know what elements are actually vulnerable to those. Let's look at some of the reporting capabilities. So we go into the standard report tab of Curator. Look at all these different reports that we have. And towards the end, we should have the vulnerability managers on V. Let's look at that. All sort of reports already made that you can actually take and tailor them. Let's move faster towards the end. We should have on the V, it should be close now, vulnerability manager. There we are. So we select those, and these are the ones that comes out of the box. Let's click on the first one and see how we will modify that one. So if I double click on it, I get the report wizard that's going to guide me on how to modify the report. So how often do I want to run it? And here we say we're going to run it manually. How many panes do you want to have? 3 is good. What do you want in every one of those panes? And you select the different category. That easy. We click next, and this is the way that the report is actually going to show. Let's click next and see the format that we want to create: PDF, HTML, and if it's a single page, you want to in a different format. And we click next one more time to show the capability that we can actually have this report being sent via email to the specific person. So, but let's see one report already made. So let's click down here on one that actually being run. So this is a 4-pane, two pies, and 2 bars, and this is the way that those reports actually get sent. Let's move on quickly. So let's go into the offenses and look at the rules. See what I want to show you. No longer we need to actually, what we have is a capability on any one of the rules, and here invoking the rule wizard, to actually initiate as a condition of the rule to trigger a scan. So if a device is behaving strangely, go ahead and scan it, because there might be some problems in there. And then you have that option that we see there. We can actually scan that specific IP that is behaving strangely. It's a nice feature. Let's keep on moving. Let's look this in the context of offenses and how the QVM plays on the offenses. Let's look at this offense, A98, detect assets using out of policy protocols within regulatory networks. And if we click on that offense, we actually can even see the attack path because we see the topology, and that's very important. Oops, I opened more than one window. So we can actually see what's the path between the internet and that particular device or the components where that offense actually generated, and all the boxes that were in between. So if we display the rule that actually triggered in here, we see that that's the risk monitor question, which is compliance with assets using out of policy. And let's go back to Risk Manager to see where that policy actually is. So we click in Risk Manager, and in right there should be, yep, that's the one, out of policy protocol with regulatory. And let's see why this policy trigger. Well, this is anyone who has been talking, has been active communication, exclude everything that is SSL and SSH, port 443 and 422, and include assets that are part of my regulatory compliance. But what is this regulatory compliance server? This is actually a serve search that shows the integration between the different components on the tool. So that actually is a search that we created on the asset database. So let's go there. Let's click on the asset tab. And if we click right there on the quick searches, This is a search that we created to look for the compliance server. We can actually use and exploit that search in multiple parts on the actual tool itself. But now, the other thing that's going back to the risk tab, that we see that particular policy. One of the things that we can actually do is actually click on this icon called monitor. And this explains the concept of risk score. We can actually, if this policy fails, we can start with the standard CVSS score. And it says if this policy fails, for example, if it doesn't fail, if it fails, meaning that that's not vulnerable, let's actually decrease the score of that particular vulnerability because it's not pertinent to us. So we can actually let's put a minus sign. But if the question, if the policy actually passes, meaning that I found that problem there, let's increase the vulnerability by 50%. So this allows us to actually use the base CVSS score and keep adding, what is relevant to my organization. The CVSS is a good start, but what is risky or not depends on my organization. So this actually tunes that up and down depending on the additional things that it finds in your organization. So in short, what is it that we've been doing? Well, this is more than what you get from a traditional scanner. In fact, we take input from any scanner that you may have, Nessus, Rapid7. We actually take those feeds, but we also take feeds from things like we show at AppScan, and particularly Guardian, which is very good at detecting vulnerabilities on database. We show you on the early warnings that we get new vulnerabilities. No longer you need to wait for a scan to happen to actually find what you are vulnerable, because those scans take forever. Some people scan every quarter, and then you are exposed in the time in between. Also, we show you that we can actually dynamically, as a consequence of a rule, trigger a scan of a specific IP that we are interested. We show you the policy monitor, this concept. We show you that we have the capability of looking at topology. So we know whether there's an item that is vulnerable because it's too close to the DMZ and there's a direct path of attack. There's no an IPS, for example, in between. We also show you that we can detect when a vulnerability is actually being exploited, because we have the best SIEM in the market that we work with integrated, that we can actually see, well, that particular, for example, if it's a configured type of attack and I see activity on that port 445, then that's an indication that there's somebody trying to exploit that one. We didn't have anyone on the system, but those are the ones that you will actually start working with. I think that this should change the way that you look at vulnerability. This tool can make your job a lot easier.